Right, not the best circumstances to be bringing you lot this video under. I'm still out here in America. It's about 8 AM my time, and last night I was at the Terence Crawford against Madrimov fight. I was a matter of feet away from the stage, not the ring, the stage where Eminem was performing. I could literally throw a tennis ball and Eminem would have been able to catch it. How mad is that, people? How mad is this journey, what has happened to me in my life at the moment? And I'm not saying that just because I had a mental night last night, a night that will go down in history, that I'm not absolutely gutted that we lost to Manchester City. But I can't lie, it does soften the blow a little bit, doesn't it? But I am gutted, however, because I really felt like Man City would be somewhat there for the taking last night. I made no secret of it that I felt like we were playing Man City's B team, but Man City's B team are actually pretty good. And if we are to see a way different lineup on the domestic front when we play them on the opening day, and if we are to play in that same sort of way, then we should be very, very worried. And I'm not going to lie, there are going to be a lot of negatives. One main pressing point that I would say is a real negative that we need to sort out before the opening day. However, as much as you lot might give me the old toxic positivity thing here, there are some positives to take from last night's game, and I am going to speak about those positives in this video. But people, before we get into all that, welcome back to the Joey Knight podcast. If you are new around here, at the end of the video, if you like the content and you want to see more from myself, please hit the subscribe button. I need everyone, and I mean everyone, who is not subscribed to hit the subscribe button, because we're on about, I think, 500 away from 100,000 subscribers, which absolutely blows my mind. I'm leaving America tomorrow, and if there was any chance that I could be able to have a celebratory drink out here and celebrate the fact that I've hit 100,000 subscribers, that would be an absolute dream. So if you can do that, please do so. Let's get into the video. Right, so you can see the starting lineup on screen now that Enzo Maresca chose to field against his old mentor Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. The first thing that jumped out at me and surprised me was the fact that he did not start Jorgensen in goal. He went with Robert Sanchez once again. It's a little bit worrying for me, you know, because it makes me start to think that because he has seen a little bit more of Robert Sanchez so far, maybe we will enter the opening day of the Premier League season with Robert Sanchez as our number one. And it may be very, very naive of me, and there may be Villarreal fans watching this who understand that this is naive of me to just automatically put Jorgensen ahead of Robert Sanchez. But I just do not like what I've seen with his feet, with his distribution, with his judgment from Robert Sanchez, and therefore I'd rather see the minutes given to Jorgensen, so at least I can draw a conclusion in my mind of who is better out of the two. One thing I do know is I think Petrovic is probably better than both of them, but clearly the same way that the board don't want Petrovic in there, they don't want Chalobah in there, they don't want Gallagher in there, we're not going to be picking from Petrovic when it comes to our goalkeeper selection. However, saying that, Robert Sanchez didn't have the worst match. Then again, he's a goalkeeper and he got 4 goals put past him, so maybe he didn't have a great match either way. But when you look at the back line, Reece James, Tosin Adarabioyo, Levi Colwill and Malo Gusto. Now, Malo Gusto actually did play at left back in this match. He didn't invert, because I have been wondering, probably you have been wondering, and probably most notably Clear Lake have been wondering, how do we fit Romeo Lavia, Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo all into the same lineup? And the way to do that is probably if you play a back four as we played in this match. However, creatively, I don't know whether it suits best. We saw Kieran Dewsbury-Hall over on the left-hand side, Mykhailo Mudryk on the right-hand side, and for the first time under Enzo Maresca, we saw Christopher Nkunku start in that number 9 position. Now, I have watched the game in full, but I'm just going to briefly gloss over the Manchester City goals, because I can't really be bothered to speak too much about them, and I doubt you lot can be bothered to hear too much about them. But obviously, the first goal did come from Erling Haaland, a man that I had spoke about the fact that if we can keep him quiet, we can build confidence going into the opening game of the season. Well, he scored a hat-trick last night, so that's not good omens, is it? But was it a penalty? No. It wasn't. It was soft as shit. It definitely wasn't really a penalty at all. But can I be too upset about the fact that he won the penalty? No, I can't, because it came from our own mistakes. We cannot get to grips with this playing out from the back at the moment, can we, Because it'd be easier to take if City had put together a lovely little passage of play, some silky skills, some really nice passes, and then Haaland had darted into the box and got absolutely clattered by Levi Colwill. But that's not what happened, is it? We literally passed the ball to them in our box. A trait that is constantly repeating itself, whether it comes from our defenders or whether it comes from our goalkeepers. We are way too lackluster when it comes to passing out from the back, and ultimately someone needs to make a decision here. We've got 2 weeks until the Premier League season starts, and in that 2 weeks we really need to be working on this playing out from the back. We know that Enzo Maresca has said to have been stubborn during his time at Leicester, and ultimately we know that Enzo Maresca will opt to play out from the back and to continue playing in the way that he has. But I really think we need to draw up some ground rules here. So say, for example, if the odds are stacked in your favour, and you feel you have the time and space to do so, then yes, of course, try and play your way out rather than hoofing it up the pitch. But if you look at the bits of play that leads to that goal, there are multiple examples of poor judgment there. Players not understanding their roles and understanding what they should be doing. Caicedo, he has the time to turn and then to be able to pass forwards, but instead he passes backwards to Tosin. When Tosin receives that ball, he's got Grealish running at him and he's got Haaland already in the box. Now, in that moment, I don't care if we're in 2024 and everyone wants to play out from the back, you go back to the old school. If in doubt, put it out. And the good thing about if in doubt, put it out means that when you put it out, if a Man City player ends up getting the ball and we end up losing possession, at least we lose possession way up the pitch rather than in our own box. Because if you lose possession in your own box and you've got a striker like Erling Haaland who's there ready to poach and ready to finish, there's only one thing that is going to happen, and you're going to concede. Now, obviously, I said I didn't really think that Levi Colwill fouled him. I think he went down too easy. But either way, he went down. There's no VAR. Sometimes they go for you, as we saw with us when we won penalties against Club America. Sometimes they go against you. I'm not going to complain about it. Erling Haaland converts the penalty 1-0 to Man City. And then we all know what happens next. No sooner than Haaland has scored the penalty, he gets on the score sheet once again. This time it's Caicedo at fault. He tries to pass back to Tosin on his weaker foot. Erling Haaland pounces on it. Erling Haaland makes it 2-0 to Man City. And it actually means that the game at that point is pretty much put to bed after we concede 2 goals in the space of a matter of minutes. And it's actually a real shame because Chelsea did manage to settle into the game at this point. And some might call this a stretch, but I'd even say we started to get the better of the game at this point. Nicholas, I always say this, Christopher Nkunku, I should say, had a really good chance. He wasn't able to convert. Good vision from Enzo Fernandez to find him. However, it doesn't really matter what you create and how you create it, because if your backline is leaking goals, then ultimately it's your defence that's going to let you down, and you're not going to be able to get victories over sides like Man City, even a Man City B team as I described them. But the one positive I could say is we did sort of stabilise the match in between that period where we conceded the goals and then half-time. So I had not high hopes, but somewhat of a positive feeling going into the second half. I thought if we could get a goal early on, we could make a match for it. But ultimately, we came out unorganised once again, and within 10 minutes, Oscar Bob scores for Man City. I've got to admit, it was a good goal, man. He wriggled out of some tight spaces, showed a little bit of good footwork, completely wrong-footed Robert Sanchez, who was still in goal at this point. Don't know why Jorgensen wasn't brought on at half-time when we speak about rotating and really trying to work our squad out. But either way, Oscar Bob, he converts, slots it home for Man City. That makes it 3-0. Within seconds, history repeats itself once again. Chelsea, way too slow to compose themselves. Still probably reeling from conceding that goal so early on. And then Haaland pounces on an opportunity. He gets his hat-trick. He makes it 4-0. Game dead. and buried. And this is the point when I started watching the game in a different way. I stopped watching it with my hopeful hat on. I stopped watching it feeling like we could get anything from the game. And I just started to look at individual performances so I could start to analyse and try to interpret on who is stylistically fitting into this Enzo Maresca system and who isn't fitting into this system. And at half-time, Noni Madueke and Raheem Sterling were both brought on, and I think that this was a sensible move from Enzo Maresca, because what we have seen from these two boys so far in pre-season has actually been really good from both of them. And with the help of Romeo Lavia, these two combined to get us a goal back in the game. Lavia slots a ball through. Noni Madueke, he's already bursting up the wing. He does that so well. He really does give the fullbacks a lot to think about, stretches them, and in this new system, he's hugging the touchline a little bit more. It works well for him. He loops a ball over the top, over the Manchester City defenders' heads, and it's Raheem Sterling who shows a composed finish, left-footed volley. And by the way, it was a bit of a rocket of a volley as well. He makes it 4-1, and he very much deserves that goal, Raheem Sterling. Really impressed by his performances in pre-season so far, and we will get onto that. Right towards the end, Madueke himself grabs a goal after another well-timed run up that wing. Very well taken on his left foot, slots it home. Almost the sort of finish you'd see from a Chelsea player in training rather than an actual match. Cool, calm, collective. He makes it 4-2. Doesn't mean that the scoreline looks awful, you know. Doesn't look awful, but when you counter in the fact that City went 4 goals up, you can kind of see that it isn't a great scoreline at all. And I've made it very clear here that there are a lot of negatives from this match that Chelsea have displayed here, haven't I? Now, we're not dealing well playing out from the back, and if we're not doing it well with the level of opposition that we've played so far, albeit, you know, Club America, not bad. They got a win over Aston Villa yesterday, didn't they? But with the level of opposition we played against a Man City B team, a Celtic team, a Wrexham team, if we're not dealing with it from pre-season at all, we're not going to deal with it well in the Premier League season. Now, my hope is due to the fact that this is pre-season, there is always going to be a level of experimentation, and perhaps Enzo Maresca is just gauging as much information as he needs to become up with a definitive answer to who he has in that backline and ultimately what formation he plays as well. And once he has that, then we can build and we can have some stability. It's mad, isn't it? Because we've actually got players that are good at passing out from the back. I believe that Levi Colwell's got a good passing range. Buddy Ashil, when he first came to the club, showed a good passing range, you know. Fofana, the same. But at the moment, the judgment is poor and the intensity and understanding from this backline is just not there. And some of you might see this as a cop-out, but I do have to remind you that we have Cucurella and Cole Palmer to come back. They will both be coming in to this first team. When we look at the left back inverting in Cucurella, that's going to be a massive strength for us. We've seen him experiment with Malo Gusto there. I very much believe that when Cucurella is back and available, potentially for the Inter Milan match, we're going to see him used in that position, and I think that will solve a lot of our problems. I also think Cole Palmer coming back in will suit this system very well, but actually, it's not so much the creativity that I'm too worried about from what I've seen from Enzo Maresca's system so far this pre-season. Now, while we're on the negatives, I understand this is pre-season, but I've just got to be completely honest, and Josh isn't going to like this. I just don't see what Mykhailo Mudryk brings to this team, man. He's been here a while now. I just don't see him as a first-team starter. Look at Dewsbury Hall so far since he's come in. He's already impressed me more than Mykhailo Mudryk. And when you look at the performances of Raheem Sterling, a player who we're about to get onto, by the way, when you look at the performances of him in pre-season, if he can translate that into the Premier League season, then Mykhailo Mudryk has never been further away from this Chelsea team. The longer it goes on, the longer I just feel like I've got to stop waiting for something to happen with Mudryk. He's probably just not that guy, is he? I don't know. I couldn't really feel like he's any further away from a starting berth in this first team at the minute. Caicedo, He didn't have a great game by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think that we need to give him the same sort of grace that we gave to Wesley Fofana, we gave to Romeo Lavia at first when it comes to coming back in. Now, obviously, Caicedo isn't coming back from an injury, but what Caicedo is doing is coming back from an international tournament, and that was his first game, by the way, under Enzo Maresca. He's only had a couple of training sessions under Enzo Maresca, and it was his first game playing in midfield with the likes of Romeo Lavia next to him and Enzo Fernandez in there. We saw the best from Caicedo when he was paired with Cucurella, who was inverting. So maybe that will be something that we'll experiment with. But Caicedo is a gem, people. I'm telling you that now. He will be hugely important for us this season. So don't worry. He's just a little bit rusty. However, I do think that the formation that we saw yesterday maybe was a bit of a weird one to go with against City when we had seen quite a clear formation in the other games. So to change it up against City maybe didn't work as well. I wouldn't have minded seeing the sort of three at the back against City with the fullback inverting. And I do think that when we see Caicedo with Cucurella next to him, then we're going to see some good stuff out of him. What that means for Enzo Fernandez and Romeo Lavia, I'm not too sure yet, because you look at Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, he definitely looks like he fits one of those floating 8 roles quite well. And Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall's impressed me in pre-season as well, you know. I do think he'll be a top player for us next season. I think he'll be an important player and a very creative outlet for us next season. And when Cole Palmer comes back in, we know it's going to come good. But what I always want to do on this channel is really delve in on some of the real positives that I'm seeing. And I touched on him before, so let's speak about him. Raheem Sterling. If what he is showing us so far in pre-season can continue into the actual season, then I will very happily hold my hands up and say, as I was about Cucurella, I was wrong about Raheem Sterling. Now, ultimately, I don't think I was wrong in terms of what we had seen from Sterling in the past, but I do believe that in this Enzo Maresca system, there's way less reliance on the defensive responsibility of our wingers, such as Madueke and such as Raheem Sterling, you know. And I think when he hasn't got that responsibility and all you need to do is create to run at defenders and to ultimately try and get goals out of that front line and try and assist your teammates in that front line as well as scoring your own goals, then Raheem Sterling could come really good for us this season. And it's almost last chance saloon, isn't it, for Raheem Sterling? So the motivation should really be there. I do feel like this Maresca system is going to help Raheem Sterling give a platform to some of his more impressive attributes. At this moment in time, Raheem Sterling should be starting on the opening day against Manchester City for me. Romeo Lavia, I think he actually fared quite well against his former club, and it's another video where we need to speak about the fact that this kid's creativity just goes under the radar. Yesterday, he got the assist, didn't he? Because he was the one that fed the ball to Madueke before Madueke put it over the top to Sterling. Then he got the assist. Now, the assist was decent. It was a decent ball along there, but you would imagine most players, especially ones that are signed for 50+ million, would be able to do that. The second one, the assist, that is such great vision from Romeo Lavia. And if any of you lot are bored and have got the time, go back to the video a year or so that I made when we signed Romeo Lavia and I spoke about his attacking attributes. He was being looked at as that defensive midfielder, that deep-lying midfielder, and not like Enzo Fernandez, not a deep-lying playmaker, just a man that's going to get in there and do the nitty-gritty. But offensively, what Romeo Lavia offers to this team is so impressive for me. And if you could say to me now, right, you got two options. You got Romeo Lavia and Nkunku staying fit for the whole season, or you can go out and get a blockbuster signing. Let's say, for example, a Victor Osimhen. I would honestly choose those two boys staying fit. I think they're going to be so important for us this season. Enzo Fernandez, we saw him back on the pitch. His creativity was there for all to see at points. Obviously, really good vision to slot that pass through for Christopher Nkunku, who nearly got a goal. Obviously, he didn't in the end. We'll need to see a little bit more from Enzo Fernandez, where he's going to play, how he's going to perform. As I say, I didn't think the formation yesterday suited us all that much, but I want to see more before I jump to conclusions and give a judgment on just how good we are playing a 4 at the back and playing those 3 guys in midfield. My gut instinct would tell me we see Enzo Fernandez pushed up a little bit further forward. as well as Caicedo, you know. I don't think we're going to see Romeo Lavia, Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez all on the pitch at the same time. And I don't know if that's even going to be the worst thing, to be honest. So let's see. Let's see how it looks going forward with that one. So all in all, not the result that any of us were hoping for at all. But believe me, I do honestly see some positives from this match and from every match in pre-season so far. And as much as I had banged the drum and said that pre-season does mean a lot and momentum does mean a lot to a young squad, and I'm not changing my tune on that, the only time to really panic is if, when the Premier League season begins, we're still seeing this sloppiness from the back. We're still seeing this inability to be able to play out from the back and to be able to start attacks from our defence. I don't think there is any need to jump the gun and panic so far, but I'd be lying if I said that I'm not expecting to see better. Real Madrid up next. That's not going to be an easy game, but if we can see something better from this Chelsea team, I'm not writing off the chances that we can go and get a win in that game. This team is raw, ladies and gentlemen, but it's full of talent. And if Enzo Maresca can make it click, honestly, we will have a good season. We will be pushing for Champions League spots. Don't panic just yet. I know it's hard. I know it's hard, man. I know it's always a bitter pill to swallow when Chelsea don't win matches and we're desperately hoping they do. But I am seeing positives here. I am seeing passages of play that creatively, especially offensively, higher up the pitch, are really going to come to fruition under Enzo Maresca. But the defence needs to be sorted out. And not only does it need to be sorted out in terms of style of play, in terms of how we're defending on the pitch, but we just need more certainty and understanding. Everyone needs to know their roles. And in this 2 weeks, we need to drill that into the personnel that we've got there. People, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Once again, if you haven't already, please subscribe. Please smash a like on the video. I know you don't feel like liking a video when we haven't won a game, but just do it for me. I really appreciate it, people. I'll see you all in the next one.